God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. But God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 18 of Your Journey is Not Over. My name is Tanya Pearson Randolph. This is my own personal journey, and the expressions and opinions are of my own. I own all the rights to my personal journey, and to Your Journey is Not Over. Neither are to be used, copied, or edited in any way without my consent. Before I jump back into the time in my life where I went into complete lockdown, my home became my safety, my comfort zone, and it became impossible to even walk out my front door. But first, I do want to share that while on my 2-week break, I managed to give 3 different speeches. When I say different, that's exactly what I mean too. I never know nor plan what to speak on. I trust God, and I say, use me, my voice, my heart and soul. As I tell people, God reads the room, the energy, before I even arrive. And I pray and just relax and breathe. And God, He nails it every single time. The magical part is, because I have experienced so much, so many lessons, no stone left unturned with me, I'm able to be used to speak on many topics. And who better than someone who has personally experienced whatever situation? I've walked that path. I've traveled a similar journey. As God said, April 16, 2024, it makes me relatable and approachable. My first speech was local, so I drove about an hour from my home. And the other 2 speeches, they were in Florida. The first was in Miami. It's an organization that I'm honored to be a part of, as I am all the many organizations that I've been again honored to be a small part of. It takes a village, each with our own ways to begin to help, to enlighten, to inspire, and to encourage others on their journeys. And again, I'm grateful for the villages that I have, by the grace of God, been invited into. God places the right people in the right places. The second speech was in Tampa. It's one of my favorite places on the planet. When I was invited for both, I have to say, at a moment where I questioned, could I do it? Could I pull it off? Traveling was the easy part, but would I have the energy to do pretty much back to back? Again, different organizations completely, totally different energies, which means completely different speeches. It was about a 30-second of doubt. I call that the devil putting doubt in my mind. And of course, I defy the devil at every turn. It's become a game between he and whomever he tries to use as his demons. I play this journey of mine like Survivor. I outwit, I outlast, I outsmart. I'm very patient, I'm very observant, and I outplay the devil all day long, every day, I say. So I RSVP'd with excitement. My inner voice said, yes, you can do this. With God, you can do anything, Tanya. And if nothing else, it might drain me, but it will push and elevate me spiritually. Again, exercise my gifts and level up my strength. Amazingly enough, I came away from both not drained emotionally and physically like I normally am, but uplifted and energized. Had I not pushed my boundaries and trusted God completely, stepped outside my comfort zone, then I would have never learned what God has slowly prepared me for, and the strength He has over time built up for me to be able to take on more, to handle more. While in Florida, I always am up at the crack of dawn. I make my coffee and I'm out for a long walk on the beach. Most of the time, I don't even brush my hair. I know it's a scary look, I'm sure, but vanity, it's out the window when I just want that peaceful time between God, nature, and myself. He knows what I look like when I try. There's no need to impress. And the Bible says, come as you are, right? Well, it's during these walks that I get the most understanding about my journey. Things get explained to me more on the spiritual level. Just like last year when I spoke about again being in Miami on the beach and how everything I'd experienced, overcome, and survived began to make sense. God made me relatable to so many people on so many different levels, too. It made sense. There is purpose to the lessons, to the experiences, and to all the pain. Well, this last trip, it was like 6 a.m., and I'm walking along the shore. No thoughts really, excuse me, just relaxing and breathing, and thankful and grateful for where I was at that moment in time. And of course, how far I came on my yellow brick road, my healing journey. I've covered a lot of miles on my yellow brick road, that's for sure. It's been a journey. Well, it was then revealed to me what most don't have to even experience once in their lifetime. Well, I've had to endure, experience, and survive a lot of things, not only once, but twice. It was mind blowing to me. I'd never perceived it, let alone comprehended it that way. That yes, I have had to go through a lot of really hard things twice. Meeting my real dad, did that twice. Then I was threatened to go to jail again and accused of stealing a check from the mail again twice, when in fact it was signed and handed to me by the person who not only accused me, but lied to his attorney and under oath. Again, grateful the judge took notice of the other part of the check stub and realized, like he had stated, since the United States Post Office first began in 1775, their custom is to place a stamp on the outside of every single piece of mail that goes through the post office. And this check stub did not have an outside stamp. So therefore, it was determined that I was telling the truth and that my accuser, my ex-husband, was deemed a liar in the court of law. So much so that his attorney dropped him the second that they stepped out of the courtroom. And he immediately walked up to my attorney and I and apologized to me for going so hard for me over lies. Never lie to your attorney. It renders them helpless to defend you. And in the process, lies can make them look like an idiot for the whole courtroom to see. Again, I was threatened to go to jail, just like my mother had done to me. Now being poisoned, that also has happened to me now twice. Almost 2 years ago, it'll be 2 years in June. Well, my life was a wreck, a lot of loss, a lot of grief. The dark night of the soul was fast approaching, but I was still trying to help people out. Well, I met a girl that I thought had become a friend. Little did I know, it was the devil in disguise. But I invited her to live with me after she had been thrown out several times by her boyfriend. I just wanted to help her, to give her a safe place to land, to heal, to get back on her feet. No rent charged. If I was as spiritually connected as I am now, it wouldn't have lasted a day. Because the first day that she was in my home, I got the most outrageous infestation of ants in my kitchen, too. Like nothing I've ever seen before in my life. We are talking millions of ants. I'm a spotless housekeeper, and I've lived in my home for almost 6 years. Never before and never since. I now know it was the universe trying to tell me I had just invited evil into my little piece of heaven. Again, I opened up my home, my life to someone I barely knew, just trying to be a friend and help someone who clearly needed help. Huge mistake on my part, that's for sure, and it almost cost me my life. Well, I took a trip down south to see my grandparents' grave. I, in fact, spoke about that trip on my podcast. It was part of my healing journey. Well, when I go to visit them, I might be weak. I might be broken even. But just visiting their graves, well, it gives me so much strength and courage, and it reminds me just who I am and where I come from. I walk away so much stronger. Well, I get home from that trip, that whole next week, it was a blur. I was so tired, like never before. I drove to work, but could not even remember driving there. All week long, too. Coming home from work, it was the same. Straight in the door, straight to bed. I just couldn't stay awake very long at a time. Truly, I just thought everything had caught up with me and my body was just crashing. My house guest at the time would fix me coffee and bring it to my bedroom. It was a nice gesture, I thought at the time. My condition had went on for 4 or 5 days, and by the grace of God, my oldest daughter and my grandson, well, they stopped by unexpected. And I will never forget the look on my daughter's face when she walked in my front door. It was of total fear. I hadn't ate that whole week. That's how drugged I was. So I'd lost a lot of weight. And since my daughter had seen me last, right before my trip down south, and she said, "You look gray, Mom. You look like death." She said, "Let's get you dressed. I'm taking you to the emergency room. Something's wrong." All of this in front of my house guest, too. I'm sure it put fear in her. Of course, I told my daughter, "No, I will be fine. I'm just extremely tired." My daughter knew it was more than that. And knowing what I know now, my daughter quite possibly saved my life. Her nickname since birth has always been my lifesaver. Well, yes, I got better. Again, what I now know, the drugs wore off. And yes, the latter part of August, just a couple of months later, I learned that whom I'd invited into my home, whom I cooked for, cleaned up after, dog sitted for, shared my clothes and everything with, was someone that played the part really well. She smiled in my face, but she truly hated my guts. I intimidated and triggered and irritated her demons without even trying. I can do that with some people by just simply breathing. Like my mother, for instance. Same demonic energy, just a different vessel. Well, a few months later, I would discover that yes, in fact, history does repeat itself. Once again, at least for me, it does. Well, fast forward. I got her out of my house in July. I prayed that day and I came home from work and she had found a place. God worked fast that day. I ended the friendship in August after her sabotaging me and a horrible trip home from a trip that we had taken together. I laugh about it now. I must have triggered her demons real good on that trip. And well, those demons couldn't take any more of me. And the truth finally revealed itself on the plane ride home. She could no longer contain her disdain nor her hatred for me. The whole plane got to hear it too. And amazingly enough, thank goodness for healing, I laughed and I kept my calm, my composure. Again, healing has changed me. And that was one of my many tests to see had I changed. I passed it with flying colors. Had that have been prior to my healing journey, well, keeping it real, as I always do. For someone to try and humiliate me, to embarrass me with that kind of rage and anger and hatred, deja vu of my mother completely. A trigger, a reminder of how she treated and talked to me. Well, she would have ate her false teeth right there on that airplane. I was so proud of myself, and I know I made God proud too. I have come a long way and made so much progress on myself. And in those times, you get to see how far you've traveled. Well, what I thought was a friendship ended right then and there. She humiliated and embarrassed herself on the airplane, not me. Well, 2 months later in October, I came home from work with the flu. I was straight in the door, hot coffee, PJs, and NyQuil. It's one of the very few medications I will even take, and rarely do I even take that. It's in a cabinet in my kitchen with all the other medications that my late husband had. You know, antacid, allergy, ibuprofen, toothache medicine, Tylenol, and also his cancer medications. There was oxy and morphine in his liquid morphine that was only used the last day of his life to help with his breathing. Yes, I should have gotten rid of it. I know that now, and I have since. But it's a cabinet I've never opened. I'm never in, and truly, it wasn't a thought to me, nor was it ever a thought that I would invite someone into my home that would rifle through, rummage through my house, my cabinets, and find it, and then use it to hurt me. Who would ever think that, right? Who would ever think that? Again, only my life. Well, I opened that cabinet for my NyQuil, and there was a bottle of my late husband's liquid morphine outside of the box, laying on its side, like it was quickly thrown into the cabinet. I instantly knew, before I even touched the bottle, what was done to me and when. Again, my OCD with my home, my closets, my cabinets, and with my late husband's medication, well, it told me it was completely out of place. Only my house guest had access to my home, to my cabinet, to my late husband's medication, and to me. And to verify what I already knew, well, there's some perks to extremely long hair. It holds a lot of history. And the amazing thing about science, too, is came a long way. And with the hair follicle test, it was the best money I ever spent. It gave me a peace of mind. They told me precisely when I'd ingested liquid morphine, without knowledge, of course, and it matched to that very week. Again, verifying what I already knew. I like verifications on everything. Anyone with spiritual gifts does. It's reassurance that our intuition is right on track. So, yes, I was poisoned again right after my spiritual awakening, too. Devil came hard. He always does. The closer you get to God. And hey, look, I'm Miss Big Mouth out here. I'm telling everyone, everywhere, about trauma, about lessons, about experiences, about understanding their journeys, about healing, and always about God. Well, the devil again came hard. He used whomever he could. You got to be a low vibrational person for the devil to even use you in that form or fashion. My old house guest, not realizing that I was aware of what all, there's more, there's so much more she did to me, but not realizing I knew about the liquid morphine being put in my coffee. Well, she's texted a few times wanting to meet for coffee, of all things. Needing my energy is what I call that spiritually, because I cut her off cold. There's no way in hell I would meet someone like that for coffee. But I handled it the same way I try to handle everything else in my life, as graceful as possible. I responded, all I ever wanted for you is for you to be happy. I pray you find that happiness in your life, and God bless you. I then closed that door forever. And as I walked that beach in Florida, I reflected and again realized history does repeat itself. And I'm so grateful God has always been there to protect me, to cover me, to guide me, to lead me to safety, to remove people that smile in my face and truly hate me for no other reason than I'm just me, Tanya. I ran a little long today, so I will pick up next Tuesday, where again I was forced to again do something so painful, not once, but twice. And then back on track to my world of anxiety, panic attacks, again so severe that I could no longer force myself to leave my home. Before I sign off today, I will share these. Isaiah 46:4 tells us, I have made you, I will carry you, I will sustain you, and I will rescue you. And I say, thank you, God. Whenever you find yourself doubting how far you can go, please remember how far you've came. Remember everything you faced, all the battles you've won, and all the fears you've overcome on your journey. This concludes my podcast for today. Please join me next Tuesday. Listen in, and always remember your journey is not over. God bless.
God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've